Welcome to Speech Talk Live. This is episode number 51. My name is Jay Yoza. I'm the host of the show, and my co-host is Julie Wu Finkelstein. So thank you if you're watching this live or if you're watching this on the recording. What we try to do on this show is to talk about public speaking related issues. We have discussions and we talk about it because these are the kind of issues that people are having. And it's our opportunity to kind of support the Coursera community and a wider community. We just don't only support the Coursera since we post this on YouTube so anybody can watch it. But Julie and I are both mentors for the Coursera course. And it's a global course, so it's hard to be that directly involved. So this is our way of supporting them. And these are the kind of questions that we get or something that we've come up with that we bring it on the show to discuss. And part of both Julie and I are doing this is for a number of reasons. One is that we both are a student of public speaking. We also like to teach others based on what we have learned that we know works. Third is we like to coach people so that they don't have to go through wild goose chase trying to figure out what kind of speech will work. It'll kind of shorten their time so they can give an effective speech. The fourth is that we also like to get better at it too. I mean, public speaking is like a lifetime thing. So we like to record videos and practice and get feedback. And the fifth one, I think, is the most important one. It's where the word empathy comes in. We like to support each other because here, the stakes are not high. You just basically have to bring it up on your own. But at the end of the day, we're all rooting for each other here. So that's what we try to do on this show. And today show, we have three topics. The first one is kind of obvious, but I thought it'd be a good idea to just have a discussion on that. It has to be the state of your mind. And in this case, happiness. A lot of times it's important to be happy. Well, not every time. It's better to be happy than not happy, but it can affect your performance and how you react to it. So I want to have a discussion. I think Julie will have a lot to add to it because she's goes deep into this with her meditation practice and her Zen and all these things that she's studied for many years. So I'm really like to find out what she thinks about this and what she does to prepare. The second one is going to be very interesting. And if you've been following it, you probably have noticed that Julie has been doing her video recording of her 12 stretches or poses, whatever you want to call it. And she's been recording a video a week. And she completed her 12th video, which is going to be a book eventually that'll come out that she's currently working on. And these videos are sort of her practice as a companion video to the book. And I asked Julie to talk about that. She recorded a video where she talks about her experience. And this is really not only her experience, but I think it'll help others, including myself, on the journey. These are 12, so it's a pretty short amount of time, but she can kind of talk about it. And she does a pretty good job, but I'd rather have her talk about it, and then I can certainly ask her more questions. And the third video is a kind of an interesting one. It's mostly about confidence, and it has to do with, are you the smartest person in the room? You always hear like, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And I think when you're speaking, you really should go with the attitude that you are the smartest person in the room. Now, by that, I don't mean being arrogant. It just means that the angle that you're taking is only unique to you, because otherwise you're not really bringing anything. So you have to find out what is that angle that makes you the smartest person in the room. And with that, that you can talk about that because that's what other people want to hear. So I want to have a discussion. Perhaps it's not well titled, but we'll have a discussion on that and see what Julie has to say about that. So that is the show for today. And one insight that I'll bring up, and this is something we probably need to go into it in more deeper, and it has to do with something that Julie and I discussed. It has to do with feedback. And it's something that I thought about, that when you're giving feedback, there is this, it is difficult, right? Because in one sense, you really is the feedback about the person that's asking for feedback, or is it about you? And sometimes it's kind of difficult to tell. And I think that the first thing you have to keep in mind whenever somebody's asking you for a feedback is the word empathy. You've got to understand where that other person is coming from. It's not about, I know we want to be honest, but I think you lead with empathy. Honesty is not what you want to lead with when it comes to feedback, because you want to really make that person feel good about what that person has done. And realistically, you want to focus on small wins, not a big win. So for example, if somebody has written something, you don't want that piece to be, one time, like X, I call it X. You want to aim for X plus 1, not X plus 10. And that is difficult because we always want somebody to do a great job, but you have to look at it, whether that is actually feasible. You have to look at the state that the other person is. And this is something that I personally have not thought much about, but I just realized somehow I had a little epiphany. And I said, feedback is really tough because we always put, this is what I want to do, but it's not really about me. It's about the other person that's requesting the feedback. So it's something we need to discuss more about, because feedback is very important, and not only in receiving it, but also in giving. So it's one of those things that Julie and I will have to do a session to go into this in more depth. At this point, I'll turn it over to Julie, and then we'll get started with our first segment. Julie, take it over.
Good morning, Jay. Thank you so much, and good morning, everybody. So I am writing a book on poses, and the theme of that is basically, as Jay suggested, it's about being healthy and being happy. The stretches is a body-mind connection. In addition, I host a Saturday morning reading and discussion program for success. And we are just finishing our second book, and we're moving on to more of a theme-based reading and discussion. And the theme is self, finding the strength, talents, and passions of the self, messaging that in an authentic way, and then putting it into daily practical conversations such as interviews, job interviews, networking meetings, and staff business meetings. I think many of us have talents, and we need to put that forth in the world to benefit the world and to benefit ourselves. So that's who I am. Today, I want to talk about a theme that came up this morning for me. I was co-coaching a partner in her business, and she mentioned that this client of hers had made a commitment of several $1,000s, and in a short time frame, she wanted the money back. And she was willing to give the money back, and there were practical details to that, which I can share. But what I really want to focus on today is how to maintain a lifelong relationship with clients and partners. And I think the bottom line is the shit's going to hit the fan sometime. And the honeymoon is a honeymoon because there's a period of time, this honeymoon, and then honeymoon's over. So how do you maintain a long-term relationship? One of the things that I did that really helped me was after I bonded with the client, when I got a new client, after I bonded with the client, I express the nature of the life cycle, because usually I build systems, and I say that in that life cycle there's going to be problems. The maturity of the relationship is how we step through the tough parts of our relationship. We cannot have a relationship that's all honeymoon. So that's one of the hints that I would like to do, is kind of pace the expectation that there will be difficulties, but I'm going to be there as we work it through. The second one is a new book that's come on the market, and I really like it, and I share that with my friend coach, as my co-coaching friend as well. And there's a new book out. It's about negotiation. The title of the book is said, Never Split the Difference. in general negotiation strategy, one of the strategies is to compromise and meet in the middle. And he contends that's a sellout because basically you're kind of taking the solution that's okay but not great. What he maintains is that you need to stay in conversation and have faith that there is a solution out there that's more creative, more beneficial to everybody. So don't just go for win-win, but go for win-win and satisfaction. So in his book, you can get satisfaction. So that's my theme. Maintaining a lifelong relationship means being able to deal with problems, expecting problems, setting up expectation that way. And the other thing is go for creativity. Stay in there longer than the compromise. Stay in there where there's a win-win, satisfying solution for everybody. That's my share today. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent, Julie. Yeah, I just want to comment on what you just said when it comes to, I think you're primarily talking about business relationship with this client of yours. And I think it's very important to start a relationship on a high note and then also end it on a high note. And you don't ever, at some point, any kind of relationship, especially a business, like I think one of the things we always do is you need to, on a quarterly basis, we assess where the relationship is. And if the relationship is not meeting your expectation or it's not helping you achieve something, then you really do have to amicably end it. Because otherwise, you're not being fair to yourself, and you're not also being fair to the other person, and then it turns into a bad relationship. So I mean, I know this was just your insight there, but one of the things that I think it's something that we do regarding this show, that on a quarterly basis we kind of assess: is this something? Do we continue? Do we do something different? Because if it gets stale, then at some point you just have to come to the realization that at this point you just have to end it and move on to something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what life is. And life, death is part of life. And sometimes death is part of relationship. It's how you end it that really matters. It shows your maturity. Otherwise, your relationship is not really a mature relationship. It's just, it becomes kind of clinginess. You're just clinging to something. And that's not what you want. It has to be additive. It has to do something that makes you feel like, wow, I'm being, enriched by this relationship. So I just thought I'd just make a comment on that. If you have any comment, otherwise we'll just move to, okay. So at this point, I'm going to take a short pause and then we'll start our first segment. Okay, welcome back. This is Speech Talk Live, episode number 51. My name is Jay Oza. I'm the host. My co-host is Julie Wu Finkelstein. In this first segment, we're going to have a discussion around a topic that many of you are going to say, wow, this is so obvious that why are you guys even discussing it? But I think it is important. Sometimes the easiest things we tend to overlook. And this has to do with, okay, let's create a scenario. You have to give a speech, and it's a high-stakes speech. It doesn't have to be a speech. It could be a job interview. And this is pretty generic, but I kind of always like to apply things to public speaking since that's what this show's about. But it could be anything, right? It could be a job interview. It could be a business meeting. It could be anything, whether you're traveling, anything. And you have to ask yourself, where decisions are going to be made, things are going to be said. You're putting yourself out there, okay? A job interview, you're putting yourself out there. When you're giving a speech, you're putting yourself out there. Anything or it could be a performance of some sort, entertainment or whatever, or something creative that you've done, you've written or anything. The thing to keep track of is before you do it is get into the mindset of being happy. Now, you might say, well, wow, that's like obvious, right? Being happy, I get it. What's so unique about that? I think there is something you do need to do, because what happens is that when you're happy, not only it'll show up in your performance, but also it's not going to knock you off your base if people out there react in a negative way. And that happens, right? Because when you're putting yourself out there, like we do this show, I'm sure people are not going to like certain things we do. But if we come in with a happy mindset, then we're not going to dwell on it. And this is not that easy, okay? I'm telling you, this sounds like, wow, this is, try it. It's not that easy because you always take things very personally. And that's our nature. But if you can just spend a little bit of time in saying, or do something. So let's say one of the things I pointed out in my video is like this morning, I had to do the show. So I basically, before my son went to school, I spoke to him, kind of gave him some encouraging word. I'm trying to get him to change this one course. I don't want to do the work for him. Just listen, go to the guidance counselor, have a word with her, make sure that you're taking this right course. Now, this is not like a big thing, but I felt happy that I basically kind of directed him. He got it. Now we'll see when I see him later today, what did he accomplish there, right? But it's something minor where I felt like as a father, I was helping my son out make an important decision because he'll be entering high school next year. And the courses you take are important. And he's taking the science course, and I found out that the course may not have a lab with it. And I'm saying, like, what's the point of taking a science course if there's no lab? So I said, why don't you go talk to your guidance counselor and do that? So now I felt good about it, right? So I was in a good positive mode coming into the show. Now that's a pretty trivial example, but I'm just saying that you don't need to do a lot of good things. You can just do little things so that your mindset is very positive. And if it doesn't go well, you're not going to feel like, oh my God, my life is over. Oh my God, how could I, like even a job interview, do something that you like, help somebody out, coach a game, take your kids out, take your wife out for a dinner, whatever. Be in that happy state so that if it doesn't work out, your life hasn't altered in any way. And that's what I'm trying to get to. And that applies to public speaking because let's face it, public speaking is very stressful. And sometimes if you go in with a happy state of mind, then you will not feel any, even if you feel stress, it's not going to affect your speech in any way. And even if it doesn't go well, it's still not going to affect you. So Julie, what do you think? You do all this Eastern philosophy and Zen and all that. You may have a more of a deeper insight into the state of mind when it comes to before you do something stressful. So what is your take on this? You're muted, okay.
Oh, thanks, Jay, for saying that I go deep, because this morning I was instructed not to go too deep, just to stay with what's coming up. I think that the happiness is a great practice, a great way to live your life. There's actually a video out there, I think it's a mantra of Baba. Don't worry, be happy. It's a great video. Maybe we can share that. Yes, and I really, what I got out of it is that happiness comes before success. I thought that was an interesting thought you had in there. The second thing you had was the step 1, step 2. And that reminds me of some early work that I studied with this woman called Shakti Gawain. And you say you had to create your internal state before it manifests in the outside state. In terms of engendering happiness, ease or confidence before a speech or any major activity, I really like the victory pose that's been suggested by Amy Cuddy. Yeah, man. And the other thing is, as you know, I like to say, well, you can even be more free with it and be a seaweed or be a butterfly flowing in the wind or a willow in the wind, whatever. That gives you some openness. And the source of power and connectedness is in the hips. So even if you do the victory pose and somehow you connect your hips to it, there'll be a lot more power. The other thing is, as you mentioned, meditation. Take a nice deep belly breath in and out. Bring your body to straight alignment. And then connect to something that's powerful within you. Atheists still have the sense that there's a resourceful, intuitive self within oneself. And some people may be religious and like to use the word God or spiritual to connect to the universe. But 2 or 3 breaths connecting to that larger resource within you will bring a sense of happiness and ease. Certainly the victory pose is a great way to do it. So yeah, step 1, step 2, be happy, other people will be happy too. Happiness, people feel your happiness, your speech is much more likely to be more successful. How to do that? Do the victory pose, move your hips, open up, breathe in, breathe deep, connect to your resourcefulness, whatever that is for you at that moment. That's what I got out of it and my addition to it. So thank you. I think that's a great perspective.
Yeah, Julie, thanks a lot. There are things that I don't know whether you practice this or not. There's this practice people use called laughing yoga. I don't know whether.
Yeah. I have a friend who teaches that. He's almost 80 years old now. He's still going around teaching that. So. Right.
I've seen that. It's pretty interesting, and the thing is that they found that like babies, they laugh a lot compared to adults. Somebody came up with some statistics. I don't know how true this is. So if we laugh 5 times, I think like they said, an average adult laughs only 5 times a day, which I couldn't believe that can be true.
That's a lot. I don't know if they'd even do. I don't know if I laugh 5 days a day.
No. Well, you already did. Since like the show started, I think you laughed 10 times. So.
And here we go.
There you go. See, there you go. So if this show, so I think we have to laugh more on this show, because if you get nothing out of this, just laugh at least 5 times. We've just basically doubled your productivity of happiness. But they found it's a very interesting. I don't know. I have to get the research, but they found that babies laugh for like 120 times or something like that, and then as they get older, as we gradually get older, a laughing number of times we laugh starts going down to the point where we become adults. Because I remember my grandmother, she passed away a few years ago, but the one thing that I always remember about her was that she was always like happy, laughing. And I was like, really, because she had a lot of difficulties because she couldn't see her, she was practically blind. And but she was not bedridden. Mentally, she was very sharp. And she would tell stories from her childhood, and she would be so happy about it that after you meet her, you felt like, wow, I shouldn't complain about any of my problems, that what's my excuse? Here she's so happy. And she lived close to 90. 95. And that's because she was just happy. So it's something that I kind of just picked it up. I need to do more research in this, but I think we need to find ways, even if it's a show, that we need to at least laugh 5 times on the show, because it's not that difficult, and it's still very difficult. We make it difficult. So if we can laugh 5 times, then you will feel like, wow, I don't know how it affects your brain, but it does, that you feel better about yourself. So the point is that before you give a speech, either do laughing yoga, watch a comedy, get into that happiness mode. But I don't think you can fake it either. So I just want to be careful, because I know that victory pose and all that. I think if you have a deep-seated sadness about something, I don't think a victory pose will automatically make a difference, because your mind is not getting rid of that. So happiness is like a muscle. You have to keep working at it. It's not like a one trick will do the job. It's not like you can take a pill and suddenly you're happy. That I don't think is what we're trying to do. We want you to get into that state where you don't have to do anything crazy. Victory pose definitely gets you to think certain way, but you want to be inherently, in a state of happiness longer before you do the victory pose. So anyway, any closing thoughts, Julie?
Oh, sorry, I left it open. The whole idea of the laughter and the victory pose is the body-mind connection. There's a lot of research out on that. And when you, Amy Cuddy's work is certainly there, but there's a lot of work before that. There's a guy called Benson, from Harvard University, who did the progressive relaxation. Hans Selye, S-E-L-Y-E, was the father of, he created and discovered the pattern of stress. Is that when you take the victory pose and when you do laughter, your whole body, mind, chemistry is changed. So it does have what the medical people would say, it does have a longer half-life than the pose itself, in the sense that it would engender over time if they practice regularly. It is not the only tool, but it is a basket of tools. This will be one of them that can contribute to a longer state of happiness. So.
All right, Julie, thanks a lot. So at this point, we'll take a brief pause and move to our second segment. Okay, welcome back to Speech Talk Live, episode number 51. My name is Jay Oza. I'm the host of the show, and my co-host is Julie Wu Finkelstein. In the second segment, Julie's going to talk about her experience of recording these 12 videos for her upcoming book on 12 stretches or poses that you can do to be healthy, happy, and even wiser and feel good about yourself. I don't know what the title of the book is. I think she's still working on it, but that's the gist of the book. So first of all, I want to congratulate Julie on doing this, because again, part of what we do on the show is not to just tell you things, but actually do it and show you, here's what we're doing. So that way you can not just listen to what we're saying, but we're actually kind of following as we are doing many of these things. Because part of public speaking is experimentation. And with this show, we kind of use ourselves as a way to experiment. So I'm hoping that you're doing the same. And if you have an experience that you want to talk about, certainly you're welcome to come on this show and talk about it. We all want to learn. So this is not just me and Julie doing it, because the reason is we invite people. Sometimes they come on and sometimes they don't want to come on for whatever reason. But it's open. So if you have some practice that you think is working that you want to share, and you should share, then you're welcome to come on. So what Julie did was, if you noticed, if you watched these shows, previous episodes, she's been recording these 12 videos, the 12 poses. And I asked her to come on the show today and talk about her experience, because I think it shows that public speaking is not a one-time thing. It's a practice. You got to be consistent, and unless you do it over a period of time, you're not going to see the improvement. And Julie now has a body of work. 12 weeks is sufficient, and now that she's completed it, she would be the right person to talk about it. What was her experience? And she's recorded a companion video to this program where she talks about it, but I'd like her to kind of talk in a more conversational way rather than recording a video. So Julie, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you can kind of summarize some of the things that you pointed out, or if anything you left out that you want to talk about, and perhaps, I may have some questions after you're done. So why don't you take it over and kind of give an overview of what you were trying to accomplish, and then you can tell us what exactly the lessons that you learned from it and what you'd like to do next.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, I want to first of all thank you for inviting me to do a review of my experiences. And in the Barbara Oliver's Learning to Learn, she always says that going back and reviewing what you've done, whether it's reading a chapter or something, is a key to store that in the long-term memory and integrate that into your skill set. So you're helping me to do that, and I appreciate that. So I want to talk about my experiences in 3 aspects of it. And one is the improvements I experienced. And 2 is one of the key instrumental factors to my improvements is having a action partner, deliberate practice partner, Jay. I want to thank you for that. I'll go a little bit more into that. And then the third thing, which is what you already mentioned, is creating a body of work and how important that is. So in terms of my improvements, and this probably goes way back to when we started Speech Talk Live. As you know, Jay, having worked with me over the years, when I first started talking online by myself to no audience, I was like a little robot. And I think one of the things that through this ongoing regular practice, that I am much more at ease and I have a bigger presence on the screen. Along with other public speaking skills, such as being able to organize, both better on paper as a preparation and impromptu, being able to imagine possible audience responses and accommodating that, the thing you mentioned, empathy, and finally just following through in timing. And of course, voice, louder, more able to emphasize through pace, volume, to create variety, and to capture attention. So those are just some of the skills I come up with this moment. The second thing I wanted to talk is how important it is to have you as my action partner. I mean, not everybody was lucky as you to have a partner like you. But on the other hand, having a partner making all the difference, right? Yes, indeed. Because it does a couple of things. One is affirmation and support, just knowing that it's worthwhile to do. And when things go down, you pull me up. Second thing is what you call deliberate or strategic practice. So instead of looking at my whole speech, because you are removed, but yet understanding of where I'm at, you're able to key into the very thing I need to look at, which I may not find by myself. And thirdly is ongoing review. So it's kind of like a spiral. I feel like for myself, I might circle, but having a partner, I'm able to accelerate that pace by the critical feedback and the physical and the emotional and time and presence support. So that's really very instrumental, the fact that I was able to do it. And the third thing is a body of work. I think that as we are going more and more online, we know right now that the job interviews are mostly online, the first line of interviews. So they don't even want you to come in, especially if it involves travel. So if you have a body of work that relates to your area of expertise, nobody's doing that now. That will give you a competitive advantage. In addition, the body, I just read this other wonderful book called The 10% Entrepreneurial. And one of the things we all could be a little bit entrepreneurial. And what is more meaningful than to pick a subject of interest and to create a body of work. And that could eventually lead to something more meaningful than a vocation or hobby. But for certain, it helps you develop and intensify your expertise, your real expertise, because you're searching for information that certainly lends you credibility in the area of your own interest. So, so doing this helped me clarify what my improvement. Doing the recap and having gone through it, I'm much more clear. My speech improved, both online and face-to-face. Appreciate the critical nature of a partner, practice partner, and the significance of cultivating a body of work. And the first two I knew will happen, but the third one was a surprise. The concept of, and I know you talk about it a lot by seeing it manifesting in my life. So again, thank you for that.
Yeah, Julie, that was an excellent summary of what you just did. I mean, there was an example right there, the way you just did that impromptu right there. And I think that is an example right there, the impromptu that you just did. And I have to be upfront. I mean, I've seen a tremendous improvement because I remember when you first started. I don't know whether this was when you were doing the video, but I always told you that when you're in a conversational mode, you're much more comfortable because you like to get that feedback, and you're a very conversational type of person. But when you're in front of the camera, you tend to get stiff because you're not having that dialogue. There's nobody there telling you. You're not seeing them eyeball to eyeball. You're not getting any kind of feedback. And that made you very tentative, and you tended to kind of felt like you were not getting through. But I don't see that anymore. I mean, this video that you recorded, I thought was excellent. I'm not sure how you're going to top it, but you're going to have to. Otherwise, otherwise, you hit the speech nirvana here, which I know it's impossible to get to. But I would watch this video because the way you come across, confident, composed, knowing, like I said, you are the next topic we're going to go. Like, you're the smartest person in the room as far as like, this is my angle and I own it. That I'm not going to take any crap from anybody. It was not in an aggressive way, but in a confident way. That's what you were like kind of exuding. Like, you don't need to be like, I am this, I am that. You're essentially doing it by showing how much control you had. And sometimes by controlling your voice, and I think you mentioned that, your voice, the volume, the emphasis, the pace, the tone, all of that contributes to my seeing that this person is under control, that I better take her seriously. And I think that's what came across, that previously you were relying on, hey, listen to me, here's what I have to say, and eventually you'll pick it up. Now you're kind of getting it to the next level, saying, well, that is there, but if I don't convey that in the right way, then that bigger message will completely be missed. And I think you're now integrating that. You're integrating that in a way that's making you a much more effective speaker. And that's what I noticed. Okay, that's what I noticed, because I've been seeing you, and sometimes when you see somebody over a long period of time, you only see their current things. You don't see the progress that you have made from the past. But I remember the one comment that I always used to make is, Julie, you're very comfortable when we're doing the show, but when you're recording these videos, I don't see the same Julie. I can't recognize the same Julie. And what I'm seeing now is I don't see the difference. So I think that's a big improvement right there, that you now have that consistency, that you can sound the same way when you're doing the show and when you're recording the video. It's not, there's no, Julie the video and Julie the person on a Speech Talk Live. There is no difference now. So I think that is a great progress that you made right now. You completely narrowed the gap to the point that the gap may not even exist anymore. But remember, you got to keep practicing, right? The other thing I think I like what you said is, and the part that kind of gets missed, but I think it's very important that you pointed out, is organization. You're much better organized now. Even the speech you just gave, there was an organization to it. And when you're organized, it also shows that you are organized in the way you are as a person. So your speech is you, really, right? And that's what comes across. You can't say I'm organized, but then you're not speaking like you're organized. So there can't be that inconsistency. I don't know if that's coming through clearly or not. If you're organized in your life, then you better be organized in the way you speak. And I think now you and your speech, you're very organized. That leads me to believe that you're probably also very organized in your coaching practice, in your life. And that's what that speech is showing me, because that's the only impression that I'm getting, right? That's the impression, because I don't know where you live. I don't know the way you coach other people, but this speech tells me that you are very organized. The other thing, I think this is the part that a lot of people have to find. And you mentioned, and I don't want to take any credit here, but you said that, you had the opportunity to work with me for a period of time. And that's very important. You do need that one person that you can work to, that you can trust, who also has that same level of interest and who's really rooting for you. And that's not easy to find. And I have that in you, and you have that in me. But somebody out there who's watching it, that's something we cannot help you with. That's something you're going to have to find, that one person who really can kind of work with you over the time. And you got to find that buddy. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. You can't, some of these things, you do need that feedback. Somebody also knows how to give feedback. And the last thing I'll mention is this body of work. And that is so important. Just recently, I sent a request out on Craigslist, and I started getting response. And I'll just mention two of them. So one woman sent me a response where she sent me a brief response, and she said, here's my website, here's my Facebook, here's all this. And I went and took a look at it, and I was pretty impressed. Then I got another response from this other woman. She said, oh, I can't show you anything because there's a lot of confidence between me and my clients, but if you send me something, I'll edit it for free and this and that. And I said, look, I'd like to work with you, but my policy is not to work with professionally with people who don't have a social media profile or a body of work that I can look into, because I need to look at that to feel comfortable. And I gave her a chance and said, if you have that, send it to me, a website or anything. And she said, oh, my Facebook is private, but here's my LinkedIn. And I clicked on her LinkedIn profile, and it's not even, I couldn't even get through. So I said, listen, I appreciate you, but I can't, this is one policy that I cannot compromise on. And I said, I appreciate you responding, and that's it. So the point here is that the body of work is something that you got to put it out there. I personally will not work with people if they don't have a body of work. Even if it's not good, a bad body of work is better than not having any body of work. I know people are like afraid of, because if you're that afraid of what you're doing, then I don't want to be the one to find out, right? I need certainty. And I think a body of work, because you can always improve your body of work, but not having it, you're making a statement. And that's the statement today you can't make. Like in the old days, you could get away with it. Today, you really can't. So Julie, I want to congratulate you on these 12 weeks of video. I think not only you have learned a lot, I have learned a lot watching you as you were doing it. And I think if you can put this together and put it on your website, and then if you can send me the link, if you can send me the link, then we can include it so that people can, and also that the top narrative video of what you learned, then people can kind of see what it's like when you go through 12 weeks of doing something. So again, congratulations, and I'll let you have the last word on this. Any last thoughts you want to leave with people who are watching this?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I like what you say, like confident, composed, and this is my angle, and I owned it. So I underscored that here. Yeah, I just want to say, if you're on the Coursera course, there was an effort to seek action partners, practice partners. And so perhaps it's time to put up another thread, practice partners connection thread or something like that. So that's my thought for the day. Thank you.
Yeah, Julie, thanks a lot. I think that last thought about action partner, we need to think about that, how to make it work, because they lose steam pretty quickly. And the question is, I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? It's really hard to get that to work, and I don't know what's the way to get that to work. So we can talk about that offline on how to do it, if that would help people. So again, Julie, thanks a lot. And at this point, I'm going to take a brief pause, and we'll move on to our next segment. Okay, welcome back to Speech Talk Live, episode number 51. My name is Jay Oza. I'm the host of the show, and my co-host is Julie Wu Finkelstein. And this third segment, I have a simple question. When you're giving a speech, before you give a speech, is this the question you ask yourself? Are you the smartest person in the room? Now, I know that's like comes across as very Trump-like, right? It's not like that. That's not what I'm trying to get to. This is not like bragging, like I am the smartest guy and all that. That's not what we're trying to do. That's not the point of this. Point of this is that when you're giving a speech, you got to have confidence. And to have the confidence, you have to know something that makes you so unique that nobody else in the room can say, that's me. That can't be them. You have to be that, right? That's your angle that you're taking. So you got to find that angle. Like, for example, if I'm going and talking about to doctors, I can't go to talk about to doctors and talk about something that they would know more than me. So I have to find an angle that would be so unique to me. It could be my experience with my back problem and how I'm trying to overcome it. That's unique to me. I'm the smartest person because they're not feeling what I'm feeling. Yeah, they could read all these medical books and do all this research, but they're not me. They're not going through what I'm going through. And that makes you very unique. And that's what I'm trying to, that's what I mean by this, that, it's kind of a provocative headline. Are you the smartest person? Because if you don't think you're the smartest person in the room when you're giving a speech, especially when you're on a stage, then the question is, why should other people listen to you? And you got to have that confidence, because when you're speaking, they're not speaking. So you essentially own the room. And you got to have that confidence that what I do, I'm the only one here who has that information. If you don't have that information, then you're asking other people are going to start poking holes in it. So you always have to come back and say, this is my experience. Somebody can say, hey, but that's not true. You can say, well, that's not been my experience. Politely, of course, right? This is not like you want to get into an argument saying, yeah, I understand that that you haven't experienced that, but that's not been my experience. And I'm the one who's speaking here. If you think your experience is better than mine, then you get on the stage next time, right? So you have to think like that, because otherwise, when you get on the stage, it can be quite intimidating. You feel like, oh my God, I'm not worthy. Am I the right person? Like, for example, let's take Julie, for example. Now, Julie teaches these 12 stretches. Now, her angle is that she has experience, she has learned from people, but she's not going to go and say, I know more about yoga than anybody else. What she's trying to do is saying, listen, all I know is that there are yogas, a lot of people don't even do it because it just intimidates them. They think like, oh my God, I can't do it. My body's not right. I don't want to be in front of people. She's trying to simplify it to the point where anybody can start doing something as simple as taking one deep breath and then taking it from there. That's her angle. She owns that. Nobody out there is going to say, even if they don't agree with it, that's fine. They don't have to agree with it. But as far as this angle is concerned, she owns it. She is the smartest person in the room because she has that unique angle that makes her get on the stage and talk about it with confidence. So that's what I'm kind of really saying when I say, are you the smartest person in the room? You have to ask that question so that you kind of narrow it in a way that makes you very unique in giving that talk, that makes other people listen to it. They want to listen to it, because if it's generic, then they're not going to be interested. They're going to say, wait a second, I could have gotten that from reading something. You don't want that. There has to be something unique that makes it worthwhile for them to be there and listen to you. So you've got to be the smartest person in the room. Julie, your thoughts, and perhaps you can tie it to your practice or your 12 stretches. How would you like to be the smartest person in the room?
Thanks, Jay. I really appreciate that. I'm going to first of all tie this idea of smartest person in the room with the three basic rules of rhetoric: ethos, pathos, and logos. And after I do that, I will talk about how I think I'm the smartest person in the room. And the book is a very interesting perspective for me, which I'll go more into. Is what you think I'm doing, I would never articulate it that way. However, that presents an opportunity for me. So, because you first started off with happiness today, and then you went into to be the smartest person in the room, the whole thing about happiness is creating an emotional connection, and that's in the realm of pathos, right? When you talk about being the smartest person in the room, what I hear is ethos, which is creating a sense of credibility. But then you go further and you say, not only do you want to be credible because you're offering a unique knowledge. That's the logos part, right? So in essence, by asking the question, are you the happiest and the smartest person in the room, you cover three very classical concepts: ethos, pathos, and logos. And I think that's great. I mean, I think it's really great to be a neo-classical rhetorician. So I like that. And so I think in the speech you talk about stacking knowledge with experience to create a unique and relevant context. So, and I think that is essentially creating a place of empathy, connection with your audience, right? So you created the context and you created with some sense of empathy to the people you want to speak to, and then they can connect back to you. So it's a circuit. So that I really want to underscore. That's what I got out of it, and I think that's a very powerful message. So it's very classical, but in a very modern twist. In terms of how am I the smartest person in the room about, so I can sell the book, it's very interesting. I never thought of my audience as those people who don't do crap, who don't do anything, who don't connect the body-mind experience. But I think you voiced it correctly in that I always say that I don't need to preach to the choir. I don't need to share this knowledge with those people who are already, fitness experts or health experts. My expertise is basically, I think once you have a tool like the 12 stretches, you can use it your whole life. So it is for everybody. And so that includes the beginners. Is the beginners my target audience? Maybe that's where I should start. What is my expertise? Is I have studied and practiced body-mind practices. And this is the most adaptable tool I found. The other, my other contentions as people separate body and mind. And so this tool is an integration of body and mind. And people separate their activities into healing, success, or enlightenment. They think that there are three different baskets that if you do one, you're excluding the other two. So this is integrative in that this one practice will meet you wherever you need. It will help you heal. It will help you be successful, and even help you be enlightened. Now, is that the only tool you need? No, but it is a single thread that you can use the rest you pick up other tools. That's my position. So I'd like to hear your feedback on that.
Yeah, no, that's great. So here's the thing. Whenever you're doing something that you're doing as far as the 12 stretches, you want to be very careful, because the people that you are associating with are probably already know all that stuff that you're doing, but that's not your audience. Those people are not the people. If you tell them, you can certainly, if they're interested, you can tell them what you're doing, but their feedback is not going to be that unless they're very empathetic. Your real feedback are people out there that you're not reaching, and they're the ones you have to reach, because they're the ones who can benefit from. The people already been doing this for 10 years, 20 years is not going to be they're not the right audience for this, because you don't need to be expert on anything. You just need to be better than what somebody, like if somebody is starting from 0 and you're at 1, you can teach that person, because that's how it works. So like, as far as public speaking, like do you and me have a PhD in public speaking? No, we're not going around teaching in a graduate course, in a seminar about public speaking. What we're saying is that there are a lot of people out there who are not getting ahead or not getting the maximum out of their life because they just can't, they don't know what the practices are. There's nobody out there that is speaking to them. The question is, who are you really speaking to? And that means that if you're able to touch the people, connect with the people that you're trying to, that is your expertise, because they're not doing it. So right away, if you ever are in a position to go and talk to people, that gives you that expertise, or makes you the smartest person in the room, in a sense that, and I'm kind of using that smartest person in the room in a generic way, because you now have something that they can't like really relate to. Okay?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
All right. So at this point, Julie, will excellent feedback there, and we'll try to close out the show. So any closing thoughts on the show? Anything that you wanted to kind of touch upon that you didn't get a chance to on any of the segments?
Well, what I see today, the theme is how to be an effective speaker through presence and through confidence. And I think, and then contextualizing it in the framework of your audience. I think those are great themes. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, Julie, thanks a lot. Yeah, so the point here is that the whole point of this show is that we're trying to think about these things, but also to get you to think about it. Like, we don't have all the answers, and we can't pretend like we have all the answers. You have to start thinking about this, and that's what we kind of do. We thought about this, and we want to bring it up. And it's not like a comprehensive, but this is how you have to start thinking about public speaking, because this is something we do more than anything else besides breathing. So at this point, I'd like to close the show out, and thank you all for watching. And if you have any kind of comment, feedback, suggestions, or anything you want to share with us, practices, you're certainly welcome to drop us an email, and even we can even arrange to have you come on the show to talk about it. So again, you are how you speak. You control that. That means that you got to learn to practice, and this is one skill where you can practice very easily. The camera is right there. You got iPhone, it's got a camera. Put it out, start making a short speech. Could be 30 seconds, could be 3 minutes, and that's it. And then once you did 3 minutes, stitch them together, you got yourself a TED Talk, or perhaps even a Google Talk. And it just starts just like that, right? So hit that record button, record something. And you don't have to share it if you don't like it, but just don't stop. Okay, so at this point, we'll close the show out, and we'll see you next week for episode number 52, which is our 1-year milestone. So thank you. And that's a wrap.